This is Duke University.
My name is Sasha Pack. I'm an associate professor at the University at Buffalo in the history department. My specialty is modern Spain, particularly the latter 19th and 20th centuries. I'm interested in questions surrounding human mobility. This goes back to my graduate student days when I did a dissertation on the history of the tourism industry during the Franco dictatorship there in the middle of the 20th century. And from there, I have moved on to thinking more broadly about how human movement within a territory or across territorial boundaries through ports and so forth can condition other aspects of historical change and can be woven into the historical narrative, not only of contemporary Spain, but also of modern Europe and indeed the modern world. Sure, and this work, my work does relate to problems about borders and the demarcation of human space. In the sense that I've started looking closely at the southern border of Spain, which is a seaway, the Strait of Gibraltar, that looks like a very natural frontier with Morocco, Africa, the Islamic world, what have you, on the other side. But in fact, it's always been a border that has seen a lot of movement across, and it actually only in the last 5 centuries or so was it actually a real hard territorial political border. Historically, in the past, it hadn't been. Clearly, this engages with the problem of borders in that sense, because all of this movement that you see back and forth across the border, and indeed across several borders in that region, a British colony of Gibraltar, a couple of Spanish cities on the northern African coast, conditions the contact between those polities and has indeed been the source of conflict and even war and even mild ethnic cleansing at certain times in recent history. The significance of borders in the modern world is something that I think has changed radically just in my lifetime, the way that not only space was categorized very, very clearly in territorially bounded nation states, but also even metaphorically, there was the idea of divisions between the different human races and sexes and say academic disciplines tended to be presented in rigid categories, and more I think we see an interest in creating in sort of moving forward by crossing those boundaries, metaphorical and real, and we've seen a lot of fluidity in just those territorial borders and spatial boundaries that used to make up the world that we knew 30 or 40 years ago. We see states merging with each other or pooling sovereignty in ways that transcend boundaries. I think not so much that will destroy the nation state necessarily, but will certainly reconfigure it as we move into the future. And I think having a historical perspective on that is critical to understanding that process. Do I see a linear progression toward a borderless world, or at least a world of fewer borders? No, actually not at all. Maybe quite the contrary. When I think about the European Union, and the way it has formed, it has certainly broken down borders in many ways, as anybody who has traveled from country to country in Europe in the last couple of decades knows and probably appreciates. On the other hand, national capitals, national bureaucracies are bigger and more powerful than ever. Just look at the city of Madrid, after Spain joined the European Union, has mushroomed, and the state administration has grown immensely. At the same time, you've got, very recently, you've got older sort of nationalist movements that have come to the fore again in places like Catalonia and Scotland, which seem to indicate that there are those who want indeed more borders and want to leverage the power of the European Union in order to achieve that. So certainly not any kind of linear progression toward a borderless world, or even a world with kind of fewer, harder borders. I think it's a process that historically unfolds, and maybe a dialectic is the appropriate word to describe that.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.